Thank you for the intro. My name is Kozlowski, and today I'll be talking about our HNI approach to data insights and speed to insights. Let me just jump right into it and share my screen with my slides. Okay. So like I said, I'll do a little bit, spend some time on introduction, and I'll get right into it, enabling analysts easy access to data, how we do it, our story and approach, the benefits we're currently seeing in HNI, and also what's next for us with automation and processing of our data. So a little bit about myself. I'm a vice president of decision science and business intelligence at HNI. For the past 3 years, I've been at HNI building decision science function. Prior to that, I worked in different data engineering, analytics, data science positions in different industries, from insurance to financials to office supplies, travel, and most recently, before joining HNI, I was at Driven, which is a startup that use algorithms to price used vehicles, and we were acquired by Car Global. I'm data scientist by training, and outside of kind of working and doing data, I like to work on my side projects, which is either algorithmic trading or restoring old cars. But for the past 3 years, I've been at HNI. I'm the first kind of data scientist that they have hired, and there was no decision science group before me. So this was an opportunity for us to start fresh at HNI, and also to build a new team and with leveraging new technologies. But a little bit about HNI. We are one of the top 2 office furnishings and residential building product manufacturer in the United States. You guys probably seen some of the brands that we carry out in Staples, Office Depot, and even Amazon. We're actually top 3 sellers of office furniture Amazon. And outside of office furnishings, we also manufacture and sell gas fireplaces. So we have actually 2 distinct businesses that combine into HNI. And we care about a lot of our brands, and we also sell on e-commerce, digital, and also through Staples and other dealer networks that you would kind of go approach to furnish like a 10,000 square feet office building. But enough about HNI, enough about myself. So our approach to automation and our approach to speed of insights actually bring analysts and data science close to data. And what does that mean? My main strategy is to give everybody same information, that there is no silos of this individual, this data engineer has only access to the data lake, they don't see the analytics tools, or vice versa, data analyst doesn't have access to the data lake, they only see things in Tableau, Power BI, or the SQL developer. And same thing with data scientists. So what I believe in is kind of giving everybody access across the whole universe of information so they can speak the same language and see the same things. The other thing that we need to kind of consider is, do we need to train everyone at that moment? Data engineers are skilled in kind of working with more of the engineering tools, versus analysts could be skilled more in working visualization tool, Excel even, Python, R, and different. The other thing is that's very important for us to kind of tackle is the current data culture. Is it a silo? Is it open to everybody? How does the current organization share information across different teams? Do you have to put in an IT ticket to get access to something? Or is it, you can just log into your data lake and go poke around some CSV files or even download them? And then who owns the data at the organization? And this is something we struggled a lot with, just because IT kind of says, hey, we own the data. The business says, no, we actually own the data. So there's no clear owner of who the information belongs to. But at the end of the day, the information belongs to the business, in my opinion, and the business is the one that's going to take actions of the information that they're using. So what do I actually mean by bringing analysts and data scientists close to data? And in the simplest terms, it's actually giving everybody access to the raw data, the most raw form of information, so they can look at it and decide what they want to do with it, and then rely on other members of the team to actually bring the data, bring the tools together. Versus, the most approaches I see and have seen in our organizations I've been at, and also have colleagues working at, is there's an integration team that brings the data into a certain spot, and then gets sometimes processed, and then it gets put into data warehouse where the data analysts that actually know SQL can access to. But now with the tools at our disposal, one example is Power BI. For example, we work in Power BI and Azure. You can actually access the data lake files from Power BI and ingest it, which creates a lot of opportunity and actually puts all the analysts closer to the source of data, and they don't have to wait for anybody to process the information, losing precious time to insights. So that's kind of one thing. So kind of moving forward is, moving everybody closer to data, but what does that mean? How do they do it? And this is more around, choosing the right architecture and tools. And all of us know that there's so many tools out there these days, so many different clouds. Each cloud provider has their own tool to look at this. And it's a huge struggle to choose the right tool that you could pick or use. And there's also fear of choosing the wrong tool. And on the flip side, there's also architecture of it. How do we manage all the information? How do we ingest all the information? What's the right process? And what we at HNI in my first 3 years, like I mentioned before, it's a brand new team. We didn't have a data lake. We didn't have inclusive data warehouse that shared all the information that you could access and have all the information starting with Google Analytics and ending with our financials. Each system was completely separate. So, we were faced with this new team, we were faced with so many different questions and so many different ways we could have approached this, and each group, some of the questions we struggle with is, does each group get its own tool? And what I mean by group is it, do data scientists only work in Python and ML Studios and SageMaker? Or, do data engineers only do Python and Data Factory on Azure, Ascend, Snowflake, BigQuery? Do they only, that's their only tool? And then the data analysts only use visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI? That's something we struggle significantly with. How do we put this data line between these groups, or do we even have to? The other question is, as a new team, what we consider, do we build or buy? We spent a number of days deciding on this one. I personally come from a background of open source, so do we just build it? But that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, do you just use one of the cloud providers or a number of cloud providers and build your infrastructure using some of their tools, or even putting together some open source tools that they support in their infrastructure? The other thing is that I struggle with is, how do I hire? What is the right talent that I need in order to be successful in kind of bringing the insights at speed? How, do I hire an army of data engineers first? Do I hire an army of data analysts or data scientists? Who do I choose and how do I build a team? And what talent do I look for? Do I look for AWS or Azure or GCP? Or do I look for, everybody that knows Python? Or do I stick with more traditional tools, like Informatica? When considering also tools, something that we also looked at, is it easy to use? There are some tools that are fairly difficult and fairly complex to use, and there are some that make it very easy. And one thing that we actually had to make a very interesting choice on with the next question there, will this make everybody happy? Whatever we choose, will it make everybody happy? And the answer is no. I think we always do and choose the architecture or tools that we deem the right at that moment. But you also have to consider when choosing those tools, is it, if you have to break the tool or if you have to go away from the tool 6 months, how easy is it going to be to pull away? And how easy is it going to be to pull out all your code, all the information from it, and transfer it to a different tool that you, after 6 months, decide is better for your team? Is it one other question is it future proof? I don't think anything is future proof. You make a decision at that moment when you're deciding with the idea what you're going to be in the future, but business changes. So I'll repeat the point that I made before. You have to think about having a tool that you can, if in the worst case you have to pull out, you're not completely submerged in a tool that'll take 2, 3, 4 years to actually pull everything out and transfer, because the current tool that you chose at that moment does not meet your future needs. And then on the architecture front, what we talked about is, do we data lake? Do we data warehouse? Do we data mesh? Do we data anything? There's so many different concepts, different ways of doing it. And what we determine, I'll talk about later. But I don't think there's a right choice. I think you choose the right thing for the team at that moment. In my opinion, I think data mesh might be a little more flexible than going with a data warehouse. But that's only from my opinion, my standpoint. But each organization has to weigh its benefits and negatives as well, and see what will work for them. So, so what tools did we choose, and what tools are we using? Of course, I had to have a slide with all the tools and all the little icons that everybody knows in order to kind of show up our stack. So you can see this is primarily what the decision science team uses, and what the decision science team composes of is data engineer, data analyst, BI developers, and data scientists. But it's not always about tools. I believe it's about the team and the members of the team and the culture. I think if people are happy, they have access and the work matters, and they can work with new technology and are able to experiment, they're going to be happy with any tool. And they're going to be happy using any form of automation or any form of data warehousing or cloud that helps them be successful. Yeah, and how we do it at, one thing that we do at HNI and how we do it is, you can see there's Ascend in the middle of this. We use Ascend to primarily connect to everything. And how data engineers work together with data analysts is in a way of, we don't restrict access to data analysts that they cannot build data connectors, for example, or they cannot connect to the data lake. We give everybody a dev spot in Ascend, and we let them loose. And the benefit of that I see personally is, if you allow people to experiment, allow people to connect to all this information, they can come up with faster insights. They can develop their skills, and they can also develop new ways of doing things that certain individuals on the team or other individuals would not be able to do if they don't have access to everything. If they can see, hey, I have access to all these buckets on S3 or all these containers in Azure, they can kind of come up with ideas of like, hey, if I join this or join that, will I get a little more information? Am I able to answer these 5 extra questions that I know they're going to come during this analysis? So how we kind of do it in Ascend is we allow anybody to build data connectors, and we allow to use data connectors to connect any of the systems that we have, be it Salesforce, be it any data lakes, be external APIs that are either public facing or even private APIs. Of course, we don't let them do whatever they please. There are certain rules they have to follow, like backing up their code. We have some CI/CD process in place that backs up everything that we build in Ascend. using Bitbucket and Bitbucket pipelines for deployment. But we allow the users to do everything. One of the kind of successful projects that we were able to move really quickly with, thanks to Ascend and using some of our tools and having access to a platform like Ascend, is early in the COVID days in 2020, our HR department asked us to build a COVID dashboard. And there were a ton of APIs. There was, I don't know if anybody remembers, there was CSV files on GitHub that certain companies put out. What we did using Ascend, we allowed one of the data analysts to actually connect to all those APIs, ingest them, transform, and build a, there were some requirements that Power BI or Tableau couldn't meet, and then build a Plotly dashboard that we deployed on Azure that create a very beautiful kind of a tracking of what's going on with COVID, and specifically what's going on with COVID in the locations that were manufacturing furniture. And that was, that automation was enabled by giving everybody access and the opportunity to actually build those connections by themselves without going through different, IT tickets, different teams, and different tools. So that's what kind of Ascend is enabling us as a team to, even allow data analysts that have very minimal, data engineering and software engineering skill sets to actually build those data pipelines that automate some of their work. And then, that's one example, but we have done this with Google Analytics. We have done this with Salesforce. We have done this with other partners that we use data from, and that enables us to, not wait for a data engineer to build my data connector and then move it to the data lake and then move into the data warehouse. So that's why Ascend is in the middle of our stack, is because we ingest everything in it and we kind of treat it as a data warehouse. And we give everybody access to each transform, each data connector. And that's for exploration purpose as well. For production, what we do, the steps are a little bit different, but what we try to do is we separate everything into two kind of spaces. One is data connectors, where everything gets sucked into Ascend and automatically, and then gets exposed as a data feed into other transforms or other data flows or other data services. And that's managed primarily by the data engineering team. They do most of the cleaning, they do most of the prepping based on kind of some of the requirements that they have. And then that kind of exposes all the data as data feeds. You can call them tables in kind of data warehouse world, that any of the data analysts or data scientists can subscribe to, and they build their own flows in there. But the nice thing, what the platform or the platforms that we have to our disposal on the team allow everybody to actually automate their work. They can use the same platform to schedule, use the same platform to monitor, and some of the analysts even have set up their own notifications if something is late or if something is running behind schedule or something errored out. They get pushes to Microsoft Teams or Slack that says, hey, your flow is, there's an error or something happened. And this was not used to be possible before, when you have a different silos of tools and different teams doing things. Now, one of the things that our data engineers actually like is when a data analyst is able to POC, do their own data flows, proof of concept, and get everything working. When they go to maybe clean something up or, future proof it a little bit more, or make sure everything's going to work nicely with scheduling, they're not starting from scratch. They kind of already see what's being built, and they're just trying to improve it. So that's kind of where we're getting this velocity and the speed of development, because we have the tools in order to allow everybody to do that. Which, the other nice thing about this is the team likes it. Everyone has access to the same data. Everybody has access to the same tools. And when we have an issue or someone's wondering, why is this erroring out, or why does the report says this or that, it's a clear linkage to data flow, and you can take a look and follow how the data flow through, and everybody has access to. So if, for example, you want to know why certain data is late that day, we have a document that you go to a particular data connector and you find it, and you see if it's error out, or something's happening in the source system that we're pulling from. Might be Salesforce or Google Analytics that's not populated yet. And the team values, from the feedback that we're getting, values the transparency, and and everybody kind of likes that they can kind of experience different types of the work and see what they like and how they can navigate it, and also move faster. One thing from my background when I was a data scientist, I used to be frustrated when like, hey, I need these tables in data warehouse because I didn't have access to a data lake, or I had to wait for data engineering to prioritize some of the information that I needed for my particular project. With tools like Ascend and access to a data lake, and giving everybody read access to things, that kind of goes away. You have access to it and you have the skills to read it in, you're able to read it in. And don't get me wrong, access is one thing, and we give everybody read access. We don't give people write access and access to change. So we just give everybody kind of the transparency to see what's going on and where information is coming from. But the other key thing that I want to stress is, we are allowing our data scientists, BI developers, and other individuals in the team to experiment with different information, different data. Like I mentioned before, we allow them to tap into all these sources and see if they can be connected. If somehow, if a data analyst has an idea, hey, can I trend Google Analytics and can I trend our sales? Is there a strong correlation? They can actually get down to a day level, hour level, and see by themselves how that's happening, because if they want to go and grab their raw data, they have all the ability to do so. So that's kind of one thing I want to stress. It's giving the tools, the right tools, and making the team happy. The culture of the team, making it that anybody can do anything they want on the team, and giving them access to do so, and also the support. One other thing about HNI that we're trying to practice is, we're trying to make sure the data team is not a back office function anymore as well. And that's one of the things that we, thanks to some of the tools that you saw on the prior page, some of our methodology and architecture, we are able to develop a lot faster. And we're not making it transactional with the business users. What we're doing is actually making that they're our partners, because they are part of our development and we walk them through every single step. And this is nice because the data analysts and data scientists actually have access to everything. They can talk with the IT teams that say, hey, something's wrong in the raw data, and they can actually translate it directly to the business user as well, that something's up with the data. And it's not one of those, create a ticket for this, create a ticket for that. So we're treating everything more as a partnership versus a transaction. And that's been also a huge win for us. By utilizing Ascend, we can kind of walk everybody how the data is being used, how it's being monitored, and how it's moving, and how we're transforming it for the end use cases. So with all that stuff, what is next for HNI, and what is Ascend enabling us to do? It's helping us build competitive advantage using data. Before 3 years ago, there's certain information that we didn't have because we couldn't read them in fast enough, because there was just strain on resources of our data integration team. We started developing new tools. We went digital with digital selling. Like I said, we're one of the top 3 sellers in Amazon. Now with tools like Ascend and utilizing some of the Azure functionality, we can actually grab all that information. We don't have to wait for different teams, and we can just ingest everything into the data lake and process all the information ourselves. on the decision science team. The other thing that we're kind of moving forward with is acquiring additional external data sources. And this is also what the Center is enabling us, tapping into, writing custom Python code to tap into any API. Or even if there is, some data, open source data that, Ascend already has a connection to, we can easily tap into it and kind of pull it through, automate it, schedule it, monitor it, without, asking for certain resources from IT. The other thing that what's next for us is, seamless integration with the consumers of our team's insights. What this means is, giving everybody access to the same BI dashboard, same BI information, same information that all the data analysts are seeing. We recognized early on that there are individuals on finance teams or marketing teams that can navigate some of the information, some of the data that we have. And we actually gave them access to through the JDBC to Ascend, so they can actually pull their own information if they want to, and they can go to the raw source, or they can go to the aggregated source that we're using for some reports. And that was also one of those things that people were surprised that we're doing that, but enable us to kind of move data closer to the people so they can make the right information, right decisions, and get the right information in a quick time versus waiting for someone that has the data locked down in some table in data warehouse. We're trying to, for the lack of better words, democratize all the information, all the data that we have. And the other thing is, what we're trying to do and what I'm trying to preach is anticipate what users want before they even know it. So what we're doing is, we're pushing the team to actually look at all the information for a given source in the raw state, what information is available, and what information they can access to. And every problem that we're trying to, tackle or any analysis, we always stress like what else is in there and what else can they be asking for, or what else the business user will probably need before they make a decision. And this, giving everybody access to raw information, bringing them closer to data, allows us to do that faster, and allows us to innovate a little faster with some of our data products that we have. And that's about it. Like I said, my main point I'm trying to make is, in order to improve your speed to insight, in my opinion, you have to give access to everyone, and also give them tools that will enable to actually POC. Not necessarily, put things in production, but even POC all the information, all the data they could get to get that information into their hands and develop insights quickly. And that's kind of will be my wrap up. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to jump on.